Well, hello everybody. Yay! I'm so happy about today's guest. Welcome to Aquarius Rising Africa. I'm so happy to have you all with us again today in the chats. And of course, I am super happy and super excited to have the beautiful Cathy O'Brien with me today. Cathy, how are you? It's so good to have you here.
I'm so happy to be here. I've looked forward to our conversation and sharing this opportunity to bring truth to light in such a comprehensive, empowering way, rather than overwhelming people, because people need to be lifted. And I've looked forward to this discussion with you for sure.
Absolutely. You know, we were just talking a little bit off air now, and I was just saying I really love your take on the way that you've moved through, I want to say, you know, your traumas. And of course, I know your background, but I'm going to ask you, well, from what I've read anyway, I'm going to ask you maybe just to share with us again, you know, just your beginnings and all of that, because I think for you to have been through, and I always say to people as well, you know, I can never, ever get used to hearing these tragic stories. But when I look at someone like yourself, and there have been some other amazing overcomers as well that I've had the privilege of speaking to over the past 3.5 years or so, who have literally moved through hell and have moved into this amazing space of being a beautiful healer and an uplifter for the rest of the world. And it is so beautiful to see. So I'm so grateful that you are on the channel. And as you know, I'm a healer myself. So for me, it's all about moving out of that place and turning that pain into gain. You know, how do we can never change, not even God can change the past. We can never change what's happened. But what we can do is take that and turn that into something beautiful, no matter how traumatic or tragic it might have been for us. And I absolutely see that you are one of those gems who has been able to do that. So it's amazing for me. Yeah.
What happens to us isn't necessarily who we are. And
exactly
who we are is filled with miracles and gifts. And we have so much infinite spirit and capacity for healing, self-healing, and empowering others for healing. And how beautiful that you were born with knowing your gift and living your gift. And ultimately, that's what it's all about. It's not, you know, life gets in the way of, you know, and we learn whatever we need to learn and go through whatever we need to go through. But ultimately, what it comes down to is living the love we are, true to soul, and living our lives
absolutely
perfectly.
I so believe that. And it's just, love is not something that is a flouncy marshmallow. Love comes in so many different forms, right? I mean, and I always say, I'm certainly in the work that I have done and do as well, it's just about helping others understand who they truly are. Because once we can transform that pain and turn it into gain, we then see things in such a different light. And as I said, that's absolutely what I see in you. And it's true what you say. Well, you know, when you read your bio, you are a healed survivor. You are a healed overcomer. And that is truly what the world needs, because it's people like yourself, as I said, that's going to be the ones that actually shift this entire planet and this entire dimension that we're living in, and so that we, you know, that others too may see the light in their circumstances, and not necessarily only SRA and MK Ultra and stuff like that, right? It's amazing. Yeah.
Right. Yes. And I've been speaking out for over 35 years on MK Ultra mind control and healing from it. And it's been quite a journey. It's been amazing watching people. When I first started speaking out, people didn't know which is mind control, and that there was a pedophile agenda that's a mind control agenda that a few perpetrators are imposing on us all. And you know, it's so important that people know the truth and the reality of how our minds respond to trauma and how we subsequently are manipulated, because knowledge is our defense against mind control. That's why there's so much censorship out there. You know, it's up to us to get that truth out there, you know, and empower people and let them remember they have all the power. These perpetrators who are manipulating us and imposing trauma after trauma are only have as much power as we give them or let them steal, when we realize who we are and tap in to that infinite source of spirit and love. It's game over. You know, this is a beautiful evolutionary time we're living, and seeing people wake up over this 35 years that I've been speaking out is really encouraging. We have reached a point now where it's our time. It's our time to shine. We just need to claim our victory and stop following these self-anointed, self-appointed leaders that we didn't elect. You know, we need to live life's purpose.
Exactly. I love self-anointed, self-appointed, because that's truly what they are. They really are of service to self. And I love, you know, I love what you're saying there as well. You know, it's really just about seeing that within ourselves, and our knowledge, the knowledge we have is our defense against these guys. So the truth sets us free in so many ways. When we understand the power that we hold within us, you know, it really has the ability to set us free in such magical ways, you know. And I think that is truly what we should be aspiring to. You know, it's amazing to me. I mean, my trauma in life was what I mean, I was born with a gift. I mean, I remember being in my mother's womb, and she was about 6 or 7 months pregnant with me. And I have conscious memory of lying in this womb and looking at my fingers and looking at my toes and thinking, I'm fully developed. I need to get out of here. I've got things to do. That was my consciousness. And when I was 16 months old, I was speaking fluently. I just wanted to be a grown-up, you know. I just could not wait to grow up.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. You know, everybody should be so enthused about life. And yet we've had years and generations of conditioning to look outside ourselves to big government, big pharma, big tech, big cult religion to tell us how to live our lives, when in fact we have had the answers within us all along, you know. And for me, that's the message that I can bring forward from my experience in MK Ultra mind control. I was used on a White House Pentagon level, primarily during the Reagan-Bush administration, and was totally robotic and tortured to carry out the bidding of these perpetrators. I know how they think, and I know what their plan was for us all. And they're losing so much, because they're like this really low vibration, dark, negative energy force that feeds off a low vibration.
Parasites. They're just parasites.
They are.
Yeah.
They want us in fear. They feed off of negativity. They want us in fear. They want us to hate. They want it to divide. They're imposing all this negativity, subduing us, because their greatest fear is the strength of the human spirit and power of love. That's such a high vibration. You can't feed off of that.
That consciousness, the human consciousness that we have.
The only thing they can do, they can't possess that strength. They can't stop it. But the only thing they can do is manipulate our conscious minds so that we don't think to access our soul, where we have our moral compass, where we have our ability to gather our strength of spirit and that infinite power of love and live our life's purpose. That's what they fear the most. So they try to keep us repressed and suppressed. And mind control is the same formula, whether it's of an individual, a nation, or the world. And trauma is the basis of it. It's the way our brains respond to trauma. We just need to understand that mechanism. When trauma occurs, the brain physically shuts down neuron pathways in the brain and represses that memory so the rest of the mind can function and develop normally. Well, after so many traumas, there's too many neuron pathways shut down in the brain, and it leaves our subconscious mind wide open to being easily led and manipulated. So they add a formula of sleep, food, and water deprivation. They keep us exhausted. They keep our brain starved through this ridiculous manufactured food. And then they manipulate us through a controlled media narrative that is repetitive. Repetition is the most basic form of mind control. So, when we're told to fear constantly, and we're told to do this and told to do that repetitively, whether it's when mind control masked as a virus was unleashed on the global population, it was mask up, get the injection, social distance. Everywhere around the world, everybody was getting that same repetitive message over and over and over. And that
Absolutely.
takes a toll. When we understand that, then we stop complying. When we understand that, then we have the knowledge that is our innate defense and what we've been blessed with all along. And to realize, well, we have this amazing defense mechanism in our brain. It doesn't mean that we need to live with that repressed memory, that memory repressed forever. We can free it. We can open up the neuron pathways in our brain. We can reclaim our free thought, free will, soul expression so easily. We've been blessed with it all along. We just forgot.
Exactly. And they were absolutely banking on that because, as we know, that our dark brothers and sisters cannot create. They only emulate. They emulate God's creativity, and they invert it. So everything they take that is good, they turn into something so nasty. And they, as you said, they understand the power of trauma, the power of pain. I mean, I've spoken to some survivors here in South Africa. One girl in particular, she was also a high-level survivor, gifted to some godforsaken beast of the night at birth. And while her mother was pregnant with her, they tortured her mother by clamping her nipples and her fingers and her toes and shocking her. So while she was in the womb, she would obviously pick up the trauma from her mother. And so all this kid knew was trauma. All she knew was trauma, pain, suffering, separation, and they know exactly how to do that. So once we've understood that, and this is what, we're hearing all the time from all the survivors and overcomers, is that the pain, the pedophilia, the sodomy, the abuse that they instill upon innocent, tiny baby children, because I guess that they're wanting to get that imprint into the child's mind as early as what they can, because that's all the child knows. But when the child starts remembering, and this is what I'm loving about what you're saying in your work, because this is what you're saying, when the child starts remembering who we are, all of that can be shaken away, right? We literally, it's like a moldy, old, stinky blanket or towel that we put into the sun. We give it a good wash in the washing machine. We put it into the sun and we let it be in the sun for a while. And soon its normal beauty will start radiating and shining through again, right?
Exactly, because soul is stronger than genetics. Even the genetic manipulation that goes on is no reason to not live our life's purpose, because we've been blessed with this amazing strength, an amazing resilient body, mind, and spirit, amazing immune system. We have so much capacity for healing, and that's the exciting aspect of this message. I know about the genetic part because I was born into a multi-generational incest-based family. My father was sexually and ritually abused. My mother was sexually abused and trafficked to my grandfather's Blue Masonic Lodge. So the Blue Masonic Lodge is where they had the secrets on mind control, and where the politicians and law enforcement would get together and discuss how they could manipulate minds using the formula for mind control that was brought into the United States through Project Paperclip. That's when we imported the Nazi and fascist scientists into the US in the wake of World War II. And with them came the formula for mind control. And again, trauma is the basis of it. And they found there's no trauma more horrific on the human mind than sexual abuse of a child prior to age 5 while the brain is still forming. So ultimately, because of that multi-generational aspect, because I was being sexually abused, because my father got caught sending child pornography of me through the US mails back in like around 1960, so long ago, when a local politician approached my father and told him he could receive immunity from prosecution if he would agree to sell me into the CIA's MK Ultra mind control project. That shows how the justice system has been corrupted to allow for the proliferation of pedophilia, because again, pedophilia is a mind control agenda, and it's one being imposed on the whole world. And we just need to remember that that's what they're doing, and it's how our brains respond to that trauma. Well, my father sold me into the project. That local politician was Gerald Ford. He went on to become the unelected president of the United States. As his political career escalated, so too did my victimization in MK Ultra, until I was right there in the swamp among the perpetrators who were leading this new world order, what Adolf Hitler, George Bush, and Joe Biden, and how many others term the new world order, this slave society agenda, this great reset, whatever we want to call it. And having been around them and seeing what their plan was and seeing how their plan is falling apart, it's an exciting time to be able to bring information forward on mind control so that we can be more effective in reclaiming our free thought, free will, and above all, protecting our children, because they're the ones being targeted.
Absolutely, because of course we know the first things they go for are the children. And it's so true. And what you're saying about the, you know, the effect it has on kids, sexual abuse, and especially when it's coming from a trusted source, right?
Yeah.
Especially when it's coming from your father or your mother or your uncle or your grandfather or whatever. Those first, you know, you learn to trust them, you learn to love them. They're the ones that are your caregivers, your protectors, your providers. And then suddenly one night or one day, everything just changes and your entire world as a little thing just shatters. Right.
Yeah. In my case, my father was abused from never abused on some level. And I couldn't think to know what he was doing was wrong, but my brain knew. My brain knew that I was enduring pain and suffocation. So it shut down those neuron pathways, repressed that memory so that I could develop somewhat normally beyond that. And then when my father would come in to sexually abuse me, again, the part of me that dealt with him would trigger back open to deal with his abuse again and again as needed. Well, after he sold me into the project, and after I'd already been exposed to child pornography, created more compartmentalization, repressed memory, being trafficked, the more compartmentalization and repressed memory. And then when my father sold me into the project, I was subjected to occult ritual very deliberately within our local Catholic church, which was in alignment with the CIA for mind control purposes. That's why pedophilia has proliferated within the Catholic Church so strong. I'm not saying all Catholics are bad, and there's good and bad in everything, but I'm saying that there's a definite Jesuit agenda that knew that abusing the children created a compliance in them, because again, those neuron pathways are shutting down, and it with those shutting down, we lose our ability for conscious thought. We lose our ability for the free choice, the ability to access our soul expression. And I think that's an important thing to know, that mind control sliding scale from the kind of torturous robotic MK Ultra mind control I experienced for mind control all influences our ability to think free, because we all formulate our thoughts, our opinions, and our actions based on what we know. And we need to know our knowledge base has been altered for a long, long time, so that we look outside ourselves for answers rather than go within.
That's right.
So even
Absolutely.
that level of even that level of manipulation, that level of indoctrinating children in the school system, it stops our ability to think, to tap into our soul expression. And without that, we lose our moral compass. And ultimately, that is a key component in how this pedophile agenda has continued as long as it has. Grateful people are finally waking up.
It's so true, because the first thing they do is they take away the child's trust, right?
Yes.
To trust the ones nearest and dearest to them, because obviously if we're looking at a child from 0 to 8, they are completely dependent on their surroundings. They're completely dependent on their mom, their dad, their family, their schools, whatever it might be, right? So they learn to trust during that time. So the first thing they will then shatter is their ability to trust the ones that are nearest and dearest, and of course their own inner guidance system, because we know innately when a child is born into a healthy family, healthy situation, I mean, these kids, many of them are still talking to God. They will tell you things about God and Jesus and whoever. It's like second nature or first nature to them. But these guys, our dark brothers and sisters, know exactly how to actually shatter that into a gazillion different pieces. So you completely confuse the child. You completely break their trust. They have no idea how to trust, who to trust, when to trust, and then they become more pliable, right? They become very easily by their handlers and stuff. So now they're under the control of the handlers, who then are able to exactly tell them what to do, when to do, how to do it, how often to do it, becoming like walking zombies.
That's so true. The trust factor is very important, and it's one they didn't know I could ever reclaim or regain. But losing my free thought, I think I was blasted into other parts of my brain where I had very strong intuitions and could sense energy, was very telepathic, and had senses much like an animal would have. And when Mark Phillips, who is an intelligence insider, working the highest levels of intelligence mind sciences to preserve the sanctity of free thought, when he rescued me and my daughter right out of the Washington, D.C. swamp in 1988 and reminded me that I could heal, I didn't know people even existed in the world anymore. I had no capacity to trust. I had no ability to even think, to attempt to trust. I did nothing at all, but I did have my senses. And I saw that Mark had a lot of pets. He had raccoons and fox and all kinds. Just no matter where he went, birds would land on him. I mean, animals loved him and trusted him. And in my life's experience, people who abuse children abuse animals and vice versa. So animals were always being used as a trauma base, and it was horrible what I'd seen done with animals. So to see them trusting Mark led that path to me. It reminded me that I could trust. I could sense what they did. See, that was my first step towards being able to heal, because once I had that capacity to trust, then I had the capacity to listen to what Mark had to say and apply the healing, the simple healing methods that he reminded me are within us all.
Well, I'm a great sucker for a good love story. And I have to tell you, I think your love story with Mark is absolutely awesome. And I would love for you to share with us and our viewers more about that. And I know also from reading your story that in 1988, as you said, he rescued you and your daughter from out of the system. But before we get there, I mean, can you speak to us a little bit about your daughter? How did she get in? What was the situation there? And, you know, obviously, as you say, how did she get out as well?
Well, I remember as I was going under MK Ultra mind control, like my last free thought was hoping that there was some place in the world where people didn't abuse each other, where people didn't hurt each other, and wanted 10 children so I could protect them and make sure they were safe. And that was like my last free thought. By the time my daughter was born in 1980, I had no ability to protect her from abuse any more than I could protect myself. I was completely robotically tortured out of my mind under MK Ultra mind control, and she was born right in it. Nevertheless, there's still that soul, that innate maternal instinct, that mother's love, where I would do anything to protect her. And instead of having any part of me that had inherent capacity to abuse, I only had the ability to protect, and did everything I could, illogical as it was, to protect my daughter. And I was told that if I would do such and such, she would be spared. In later years, I learned she had been told the same thing, that if she did such and such, I would be spared. And so we were always used that way, in a very illogical, manipulated way of soulfully attempting to protect each other. And somehow that love for all that life put in our path, for all that we experienced, for the horrors that she was born into, on being used in the pedophile blackmail operations and everything else that she was used in from birth. In spite of all that, they could not disrupt love, the innate love that we shared. And for all we endured and experienced, we still celebrate that even today. We celebrate the love that we are, to know that life cannot disrupt that, I think, is an important message now. People need a good love story, and they also need to remember that this love that we share in family cannot be disrupted by a manipulative media that divided so many people during mind control masked as a virus on the global population, and it destroyed so many families. Seemingly, we need to go within. We need to remember who we are and why we're here. Tap into that strength of the human spirit and the infinite power of love. And when we do that, we'll all reunite again. And all the division that's been imposed will come back. And I think that's a very necessary part of healing going forward, is that we reclaim the beauty of the family unit, because
Absolutely.
there's nothing more powerful than a mother's love.
Exactly. And that they've gone to so many lengths over the time to break down the family unit.
Yes.
I mean, the whole feminist movement that started was all to break down the family unit and to separate children, and so they could also get control of our kids, and through the schooling system, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, it's just insane how manipulative they've been in terms of making us women believe that we needed to be something other than what we already were, which is beautiful creators, nurturers, birthers, that sort of thing. And they've made that seem like it's just a no good job. There's nothing worthy about being a stay-at-home mom, raising your children. In fact, I've always been saying for years now, that's probably the most important job on the planet, is to be the mom that raises your kids in a loving, stable, secure environment, because that's how we create a loving, stable, secure future, right, for everyone.
Yes, exactly. And it's so important that we get back to the beauty of that and restore the family unit. And another aspect they've imposed is the slave society agenda, as people are having to work round the clock, both parents working 9 to 5, 5 to 9, just on and on, just to make ends meet, because the economy has been deliberately manipulated to make us slaves to this agenda, and it's torn apart the family unit too. So we need to, reevaluate our values, reprioritize our priorities, and get back to the beauty of what was intended all along, and protect.
I love that. I love that. And I think, if anything, of this time with the zappity-doo-dah day in the pandemic, I think it's woken so many people up to that, because really we were living in an extremely narcissistic society. We were creating that, quick meals, quick aeroplanes, quick everything, rush, 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 rush. Children are given to au pairs, to nannies, to maids, to whoever to look after, because we have to maintain this lifestyle where we need 2 cars, big homes, whatever, or for many of us, just making ends meet, right? So there was no time for the family, and let alone quality time, because both parents come home at night, everyone's exhausted, irritable, grouchy, and isn't it interesting? That's when, in the last, let's say, 20 years or so, and I don't know about in America, but certainly here, that's when you started finding, and I mean, I work a lot with kids, a big influx with ADD in the kids and ADHD. And I put it down to the fact that mothers are not at home taking care of their kids. That's why moms needed to go back home and be with their kids. And I'm not saying moms shouldn't work or have a career or whatever, but it needed to be balanced a lot more, where actually family becomes the priority, becomes more of the priority again.
Exactly, because we ended up using the school system as a daycare, while the mothers went to work. Well, the education system has been very deliberately manipulated on a global scale that I'm aware of. I worked under Education Secretaries Bill Bennett and Lamar Alexander in the United States, and they were implementing the updated version of Hitler's youth education system of indoctrinating children with what to think rather than teaching them how to think. And it's called Common Core here now. I don't know what it's called around the world, but it's global education, deliberately designed to make the children march to new world orders and do as they're told, rather than know how to think free. And so that manipulation came into place, further disrupting the family unit to the point where it is now, where the teachers say, the education system says, we have control over the children. You cannot decide their gender even. You can't decide anything, wrong.
Can we believe we've gotten there? I mean, I can't actually believe that we've actually gotten to that place. And parents are actually okay with that. Some parents, let me just say, some parents are okay with that. And to take your children to these sex shows with these transvestites, whatever, drag queens doing the things that they do. I mean, it's just, and parents with small kids sitting with their kids watching the stuff. I mean, for me, blows my mind.
It blows my mind that we went from masking up the kids and putting them behind plexiglass and telling them they couldn't hug grandma or anything else, to encouraging them to put $1 in tranny panties. What did we do to our kids? But it was a multi-generational conditioning. It's mind control of the masses that's been imposed on society for generations now. And it was found through the Hitler-Himmler research that after 3 generations, any abuse-based, knowledge-based belief system becomes autogenic in the brain. It's passed down. That's why I was chosen for Project Monarch, MK Ultra Project Monarch, genetic mind control project, because there had been so much abuse up my family line that I would have been born more compliant, whether I had been abused or not. But I was abused on top of that, and still it didn't work, because soul's stronger than genetics. But we need to understand that we've been manipulated now and conditioned for generations to look outside ourselves to authority. And that's how they gained this position. They've subliminally been conditioning us, like through Disney and everything else, to accept this pedophile agenda. we were
But
taught it.
also through religion. I mean, if we're looking at how strongly they've used religion, and I'm not talking about belief, I'm talking about organized, regimented religion. Because, I mean, I always say the church has become the infiltrator. They've infiltrated the people. They've used the church to infiltrate the people, to indoctrinate them. I mean, if we just look at the Mormon church, I mean, the Mormon church is one of the 5 pillars of the Illuminati. This is the Catholic Church, right? The Mormon, I mean, 2 of the biggest churches that there are. And we just see how they've corrupted the true teachings of Christ and God, you know, from way back yonder. And they've got so many people believing a limited perspective of what the truth really is. So this goes, in my opinion, in so many different directions. And, you know, the bottom line is, to me, it doesn't matter how many directions it goes in. We as humans have got to wake up to the fact that we have been indoctrinated and we've been dumbed down through the food we eat, through the stuff they're putting through in the air, through the water we drink, through the schooling system, through our religious indoctrinations, you know, in every possible way that they've been able to get to us, they have. And as you say, our soul, our spirit is so much stronger. So when we align with that true nature of who we are, all of that stuff dissolves. They can't touch you then. They can't touch you, actually. So, yeah, I love what you're saying.
I was aware that of the religious manipulation because of my Catholic Church's involvement and the Jesuit CIA alliance for ushering in this slave society agenda, this great reset, whatever they want to call it. But when I was a child, I was taken to Mackinac Island, Michigan, which is where the governor's mansion was located there. And it was the Epstein Island of its time. It's where these global leaders would meet, they would have their business discussions, and they would compromise and blackmail each other in the process, because these criminals don't trust each other either. So they
don't like each other either.
Yeah, they hold each other by the blackmail, so to speak. So I was used in the pedophile blackmail operations back then, and was prostituted to Pierre Trudeau, who was the Prime Minister of Canada at the time, Justin Trudeau's father. And Pierre Trudeau was the master of MK Ultra, of individuals and of the nation, and of any way that he could influence people. And it was there that I heard the discussions and plans being put in place through many different leaders who were there at the time. And George Romney was, who's Mitt Romney's father, was actively involved in the religious aspect, wanting to take what the Catholics had learned about the effects of trauma on the human mind through the Spanish Inquisitions and Crusades and the wars that would leave the little children to the Catholic orphanages, where they were then, you know, they had learned so much. They wanted to take that knowledge, combine it with technological advancements in what the CIA was learning, and create a more powerful form of mind control and bring that into the Mormon Church. That's when the Mormon Church was, you know, really being brought to the forefront. We heard about the Osmonds family were like the Pied Pipers, leading people to the Mormon Church. And again, the whole thing was a sanctioned pedophile agenda, very deliberately imposed on the population. So I saw not only not only did I experience the indoctrinations, but I photographically overheard the conversations on how they were going to manipulate the minds of the population using religion, because people would, it's so deep within us. It's a deep manipulation, because if we're looking outside ourselves for those answers, you know, we're being led astray. We need to go within, remember who we are, and we will see that the most sacred things in society have been infiltrated
Absolutely.
deliberately.
And like I always say, God does not seek religious nuts. God wants spiritual fruit. So I have to tell you, I'm shattered about the Osmonds. I was convinced as a child I was going to come to America and marry Jimmy Osmond.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Well, they were innocent.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Jimmy Osmond was, I think, a year older than me. And, you know, living in South Africa, we had so many sanctions against us at the time. And it was the first time I ever heard a kid sing on the radio. You know, it was unheard of for me that there was a kid. And the song was Long-Haired Lover from Liverpool. And I was convinced I'm going to America one day and I'm marrying Jimmy Osmond. But it's interesting what you say about how they use the Osmonds, for example, to lead people to the Mormon church. It makes perfect sense. I've actually often wondered about that because
they use harmonics to
wow.
To vibrate the neuron pathways in the brain. So they were like the Pied Pipers leading, but it doesn't mean that they weren't extremely talented and most likely just beautiful if they'd been left to their own, you know.
Absolutely. I mean, isn't it crazy though? Because that's what they do. They're going to choose and with music all the time, with music and sound, because that's one of the ways that they open all these spiritual gates and things, and exactly using people, songs, sound, beautiful music, and especially like Michael Jackson was saying, you know, it's like when you sing something, it's a mantra, and the mantra, you know, the more you sing it, especially the choruses, as you sing it, you become it. And then that's how your frequency changes, which is why they're going to use so many, you know, like in the music industry, which we know belongs to the dark ones. They're going to use those songs, that music, to lure people in and draw them in, because that's how they do it. It's just crazy, right? Wow.
Beautifully stated. You said that so well. We look at the Britney Spears, you know, who grew up in Disney and obvious MK Ultra, and seeing what was done there, and in so many ways she was very, very young and very, very sexual in it, and it started blurring that pedophilic line, and it's not necessarily anything she ever would have chosen to do any more than Michael Jackson would have chose. How he was used and manipulated. It doesn't preclude the fact that the talent is gift they had within them, and they should have been left to their own ability to use that. But Michael Jackson was born to the same MK Ultra mind control project I was. He was part of Project Monarch. He grew up about 2 hours from where I did, and was being used and manipulated all along. And we look back and we can see how they masked him up. He wore that mask all the time to limit oxygen to the brain necessary for critical analysis free thought. And masks depersonalize. You can't see a person's face, and if they're smiling or sneering or whatever. And they also inhibit free speech. You know, it's hard to talk through a mask. So the masks were used in MK Ultra, and Michael Jackson was subjected to that because he started speaking out as best he could to bring the child abuse to light, to expose it. And so they wanted to silence him, and they did it that way. After the mask, he whispered. He was doing interviews. You know, the more we know, the more we see the pervasiveness of mind control around us. And the more we know, the more we see that it's inexcusable that we allow it to go on anymore. It's within us all to say no and stop complying. It's within us all to live the love we are, raise our vibration out of their reach. You know, game over, we win.
Absolutely. They're trying to grab you and they just can't. It's like, I always say, you know, when we raise our frequency, it's like we become clouds in the sky. You can't hold on to it with anything that is of a lower vibration. It's just like holding on to air. You can see it, it's beautiful, and, you know, clouds can interact with each other type thing. engage with each other, but they can't actually hold on. And that's really how it is for me. Wow. And it's just so interesting.
That's just poetically beautiful way of stating it. And it's so true. And having been around them, that's what they fear, is we're going to remember that we have the capacity to be out of reach. It's innate. Yeah. We've been blessed with it all along. We just forgot. And just to remind people, like Mark reminded me, you know, that it's within us all to heal, you know, and there's so many simple ways that we can do it and reclaim our free thought, free will, soul expression, strength of spirit, and, you know, take a stand for the children's sake and stop this nonsense.
Absolutely. And now I know we kind of getting close to the end of our hour here. So I would love to get onto this beautiful love story, because as I said, I'm a complete sucker for a beautiful love story. And I want to know, I mean, you know, when you talk about Mark in such a beautiful way, and I think it's so beautiful that he was able to rescue you and your lovely daughter out of this disgusting swamp. I'm interested to know, he was obviously in the agency and working with a whole lot of these dodgy ones. How was he able to move around and operate within the agency and not get himself taken out while he was there? Obviously, he was in the light, right? He was in the light. So
yeah. He was a spook. He could be any intelligence agency that he wanted. You know, he was very high up. And so he could be FBI, CIA, NSA, Secret Service, whatever he needed to be. So he was in a lot of different places, but he was like already ranked above. And there were many who were clean and concerned with the erosion of free thought being imposed on humanity. So it wasn't only he is the one who decided to do something about what he knew and make a difference. So that's when he rescued my daughter and me right out of the swamp. And when he did, we certainly were met with retaliation, because they first thing they did was drain his bank accounts. And he had over 3 million, which was a lot back then, in his accounts. But they said they wanted to take his life savings for saving a life. So that's what they did. And we were literally dodging bullets first, and it was quite a journey. And still, I felt safe, because still my daughter and I were safe for the first time in our lives, in spite of, you know, all that was imposed on us. Mark was strong, capable, and as he always said, wisdom outthinks their criminal mind every time. And I got to witness and experience him outthinking them. So it was an amazing process.
How did he actually rescue you? What did that look like, the rescue process? What did that actually look like? If it was in a movie, how would it play itself out?
Well, I was going to be killed at Bohemian Grove. I was turning age 30 when electrochemical changes happen in our brain that very often repressed memory surfaces. Childhood abuse starts surfacing around age 30. So I was going to be killed at Bohemian Grove and shown as proof that I died with the secrets that I had been exposed to on a high political level. And Mark intercepted when I was being traded and passed over, when my daughter and I were being traded and passed off, and rescued us at that point. When he did, my handler, Alex Houston, was in Boys Town, which is a horrible MK Ultra pedophile operation in Nebraska. He was there abusing children, and but he was gone, and it left my daughter and I on the farm, and rescued us. He physically rescued us, saved our cows, horses, guineas, and chickens, and cats, and dogs, and everything else on the farm, because he knew they were being abused too. And that just really that had such a deep impression on us. It was absolutely amazing. I loved Mark right from the beginning. As soon as I could trust and experience that amazing ability to do that, I fell in love with him, and he's so handsome. He was so everything. What a hero, you know. But he
Yes, I
wouldn't
know. I've seen pictures of him.
he wouldn't have anything to do with me at first. He said, you have to know who you are to have something to give in a relationship. You have to heal first. So that was a giant motivation for me to heal as fast as I could. And through my healing process, you know, he was there for me, because when I started remembering and writing out my memory of the things I'd been tortured to forget, I was disgusted it had been forced to participate in. And I told him I really couldn't live with myself with what I had done. And he said, you are not responsible for what you were tortured and manipulated to do under mind control. Your abusers are responsible for that, and they need to be held accountable for their actions. He said, no, but now that you're aware, you are responsible for all your actions going forward. And I thought, how beautiful. Responsibility is the ability to respond the way that we choose. And I chose then, and I choose now. Everything I do is going to be in harmony with my soul, true to soul, life's purpose, in harmony with love. There's no other way to be. So I was able to learn to love myself by living the love that I am. I couldn't do it through daily affirmation or, you know, anybody else's opinion of me. I had to find that within myself. And I found it at the base core energy of my being, and that energy is love. So I decided to live the love that I am with every breath. I still do. I still am. I honor Mark with that every day. It's what keeps me strong. And once I had tapped into that and lived my purpose, that was Mark fell in love with me too. And we had the most beautiful relationship. From then on, we spoke out together for 30 years, raising awareness. And it was a beautiful relationship in that it was 100. It wasn't 50-50. There was no push-pull. There was no, you know, he was 100% in who he is, and I'm 100% in who I am. And together we were a strong, powerful force going forward. If we disagreed on something, somebody got to learn, you know, and so there was never any time for the nonsense bickering people tend to waste their lives doing.
I think that is so amazing, because I think that your story is such an inspiration to so many overcomers out there, you know, that despite what you've been through and what anyone has been through, when you come from a place of love,
Yes,
love is all there is. It really is. And you get to be with a person who really complements your soul in every way. And you get to be with someone that, you know, if you choose to live in love, because when you choose to live in love, there's no option but to receive that love at the same time, right? So,
yeah.
and that's obviously what you guys did, and it's just beautiful. And I truly hope that everyone who's been through something similar will realize that, because that's really what the world is about. We are supposed to be with someone we love and care for. We don't have to settle. We don't have to be, you know, we don't have to be defined by our wounds. We don't have to be constantly held hostage by our past. And I think I see that happen. I mean, I've been a healer for many, many years now. And I'm not even talking about people that have been through the hell that you guys have been through. Just normal people that have just had normal life stuff to deal with, a divorce or a cheating or a whatever, you know. I mean, we are held hostage by these situations in so many ways. And when we just choose to let go and trust, God has a way of bringing people to us that are going to love us in the way that we are capable of loving. And if we are prepared, and as you say, you know, just the love that you had for someone else inspired you to heal. and very quickly too. So there's no limitation on these things, right? There's no time, you know, you've got to like do this for 5 years and then you might be ready for your first little relationship, you know? And then you've got to have 10 relationships before you find the right one. None of that, you know. As you move into that space, it's available to you. And I think your story is so inspirational for so many people. And I truly, truly hope that everyone will embrace that as well, because that's really what we as humans are here to do and be. We are love. We're created from love. It's who we are.
Exactly. The healing methods that Mark taught me are posted on my website at trance-formation.com, TRANCE-formation.com. And those healing methods are easy to self-apply. People all over the world are applying it to themselves to heal from any level of trauma or even fear that the media has imposed, or, you know, whatever's holding us back, we can all rise above it. Reclaim our free thought, free will, strength of spirit, live the love we are, heal fully, and then we're able to draw the beauty of those relationships to us. The books that Mark and I put out are available on Audible. I read them all myself to preserve the integrity of information, including PTSD Time to Heal. So that makes it easily available to everyone, as it should be, because it's just a reminder.
I have your one on Audible. I have it. I'm busy listening to it. It's beautiful.
Oh, wow. But it just reminds us all of how beautiful life can be, and that we all deserve to live the love we are and share in a loving relationship without the past intruding on our present. This is like such an amazing time to be alive. It's our time to shine, and our time to live our love.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It sure as heck is. And one final question. How is your daughter? Is she good? Is she happy? Has she blossomed and bloomed like Mama Bear?
She's amazing. She chooses not to be public because she's too busy with nature and animals and growing things and getting her feet in the earth and her hands in the earth. You know, she's an amazing person. She's brilliant. She's genius and loving and very, very wise. And another amazing survivor, thriver, overcomer, whatever we want to say, someone who knows how to live the love she is, true to soul.
That is beautiful. I'm so happy to hear that, because as I said, you know, just to see someone like yourself who really has been through those traumas, and no doubt her as well, and to see you guys come out like this and just, as you say, thrive, become a thriver, is something very beautiful. Wow, Cathy, I want to say thank you so much for joining me this evening, and I definitely want to have you back for sure. And I'm sure our viewers would like to see you back here again as well. So I'm very grateful that you've been able to spend some time with me today. Really, really appreciate you. And I want to say thank you to all our beautiful guests in the chat. Always appreciate you guys chiming in and leaving your comments and what have you. And Cathy, is there anything that you maybe just want to end off with before we say farewell to everyone?
Well, it's our time to shine, and I really appreciate this opportunity. I love talking with you. This interview discussion has just been so uplifting and beautiful, and I trust that it empowers others to embrace truth that makes us free.
Absolutely. Amen to that. Okay, everybody. Wow. Thank you so much. Really have enjoyed this beautiful conversation. Look forward to seeing you guys very soon. Tomorrow again, I'm on with Catherine. Remember, Jesse's off for the next 2 weeks, but got a whole lot of other stuff lined up as well. So take good care of yourselves. God bless you all. And I wish you all so much love, abundance, and all the happiness you could possibly imagine. Take good care of yourselves, everybody. And again, thank you so much for the Patreons who look after me on this channel. Really appreciate you. See you soon.